Okay, boys and girls, so for today's read out loud, we are going to be reading Brad Needs a Budget. And for the activity for this read out loud, we are going to answer some questions. I wrote down some comprehension questions about the story. So grab a pencil, grab a paper, and what I want you to do is just to, for right now, write down those 4 questions and leave space for your answers. So the first question is going to be, how did Brad earn his allowance? Our second question is, what was the problem with his money? Our third question is, what is a budget? And our fourth question is, setting aside a percentage of his money helped him do what? So all of these questions have to deal with the story that I'm going to read. So just make sure you write them down, write down the questions, and as I'm going along with the story, you can either, if you find the answer to them, you can pause the video and write down your answer, or you can wait until the very end when I'm done, and then you can fill out your answers. Either way, just make sure you write down your answers, and then at the end of the story, I will be going over the answers with you. So pause the video so you can write down your questions, and then we will get started. So then this is going to be our book. So that's Brad Needs a Budget. So you can see that is Brad, and he is looking very confused at his piggy bank. So let's see what's happening. So our table of contents, we're going to go over money trouble, time for a budget, making a budget, and spending with a budget. Money trouble. Every week, Brad's parents gave him an allowance. They didn't give him the money as a gift, though. Brad actually earned it. Each day, Brad took out the trash and cleared the table after dinner. He fed the family dog and took him for walks. For all of this work, Brad earned $12 each week. The problem was the money Brad earned seemed to disappear just as quickly as he earned it. His dad said that money seemed to burn a hole in his pocket. Brad spent his money on video games more than anything else. Sometimes he wanted to go to the movies with a friend or buy a candy bar. He never seemed to have enough money though. Time for a budget. Brad begged his parents for a raise, but he didn't get one. Brad's dad said he would only get a raise if he did more work. Brad didn't want to do more work, so he had to get by on $12 a week. If you don't want to work more, then I think you should create a budget, said Brad's dad. What's a budget? Asked Brad. Brad's dad explained that a budget was a plan to set aside money each week for certain expenses. You spend only as much as your budget allows for each type of expense. That way, you are sure to have money for the different things you want, explained his dad. Sounds like a good idea, said Brad. Will you help me make one? Making a budget. That night, Brad sat down at the kitchen table with his parents. They made a list of the different types of things Brad wanted to be able to buy. The list included categories such as snacks, entertainment, and clothing. Brad's parents explained that a budget should always set aside a percentage of earnings or as savings. They told Brad that by saving a little money each week, he could save a lot over time. Then he would be able to buy something expensive in the future. It can also be your rainy day fund, said his mom. Brad gave her a puzzled look. A rainy day fund is there to help out in an emergency, she explained. It's like an umbrella that keeps you from getting soaked if it rains. They also said it was important to set aside a little money to help others. They even offered to raise his allowance by $3 a week if he would put aside $2 for charity. Brad quickly accepted his generous offer. Spending within a budget. From that day on, Brad always seemed to have enough money to do the things he wanted. Money no longer burned a hole in his pocket. At the end of every year, he sat down with his parents. They helped him choose which charity would get the $104 he had set aside. So right here in our picture, we can see how he did his budget. So he has 3 categories. The first one is things I want to have money for. So he put snacks, entertainment, clothing, savings, and charity. His weekly budget, so every week he would set aside that money. So he would set aside like $2.75 for his snacks or $4 for entertainment. And then his last category was yearly budget. So weekly, so the 52 weeks. So it shows you that in 52 weeks, if he saved $2.75 for snacks, he would end up having $143 by the end of his year. The first year, he chose to give the money to the town's animal shelter. Giving money to help those in need made Brad feel good. He also used some of his savings to buy a cool new video game console. That made him feel good too. And then this is our glossary. So if you want to pause the video and write down your answers for your questions, or if you still want to just go back and read over it again, go ahead and pause the video or go back. And then once you are done, we're going to get going with the questions and the answers. So for the first one, our question was, how did Brad earn his allowance? How did Brad earn his allowance? So if you remember in the beginning, it tells you that Brad he took out the trash, he cleared the table after dinner, he fed the dog, and then he also walked the dog. So that is how he earned his allowance of $12 every week. What was the problem with his money? So the problem with his money was that it would disappear just as quickly as he earned it. So if you remember before his budget, he would spend all of his money really fast, and by the time he knew it, when he wanted to buy something, he had no more money left. So our third question leads to, what is a budget? So our budget is a plan to set aside money each week for other expenses. So his dad helped him set a budget, which was the paper with the 3 categories that said what he wanted to save for, how much, and what he would end up with at the end of the year if he saved that amount each week. And then for our fourth question, setting aside a percentage of his money helped him do what? So at the end, he says that he was able to buy something expensive for him, so he bought that game console for himself, and then by the end of the year, he was also able to give $104 to charity. So make sure you have all your questions answered for this activity.